So here I am, traveling in a foreign country that speaks a foreign language. I'm in Japan. I mean, I'm not totally new at being a foreigner in a new country, but I've never been in a country that mostly speaks a language other than English. I know, I probably should have learned more of the language before I came here. But hey, I'll get by. I hope. Thankfully, I'm not here alone. I have Brenda with me, and she's been here before. 7 years ago. But together, we have 25 days in 5 prefectures as tourists in the floating kingdom. To say goodbye home and hello world. Flights. God, I hate flying! Especially flying over the holidays. We flew close to New Year's, so yeah, you can guess how that was. I normally get scared of flying in tin cans in the sky, but I gotta say, this airline was pretty cool. We got snacks, plane food, and a fun amount of in-flight messaging. And after 9 hours on the plane, 1 high-speed taxi driver, we arrived at the first destination on our journey. This place serves as home for the next few days, and I like it. For the first official day of our trip, we explored a place called Ginza, known for high-end fashion, modern art, and lots of shopping. But just like any other tourist, I'm here to browse. We checked out a shop called Itoya, and it was the first time I saw luxury stationery. But upstairs had a cool lettuce farm, so couldn't complain. We went to lunch after, though had to stand in the line, but apparently that's pretty normal here. This place had some amazing unagi, and apparently I was applying the yuzu wrong, so the kind lady had to come over and help us out. I'm learning. The rest of the day, we wandered the streets, explored more shops, even got to try horse meat. That was unexpected. In Tokyo, it seems like there's always something to do. We departed for Toto City to see Teamlabs. Definitely a touristy experience, but the visuals were pretty cool. They had these LED lights, and they would just shimmer in all sorts of colors. And not to mention the other colorful exhibits. Yeah, we had fun there. And of course, we had to see the floating flower garden. The thing is, the flowers would go higher and higher the closer you got, so to get some shots, we had to be quick. It honestly felt like being in a Disney movie here. Flowers all around, and someone special to share it with. There was also what I called silver potatoes. They were shiny. The day was still young, so we ended up taking the train. Though this train had a little bit more of a seaside view. The one thing I'll say about Tokyo is there's a lot to see, to the point of being slightly overwhelming. But hey, more to explore. We eventually ended up having lunch. We kind of waited over an hour. But afterwards, we had to stop and get the famous melon pan. Fresh, with matcha ice cream. And yes, it was delicious. As the day got darker, the stalls began to stand out even more. I mean, look at all this food. We stumbled upon this main street with shops filled with souvenirs. I wanted to get stuff, but I had to resist. Eventually, we started creeping closer and closer towards Tokyo's oldest temple. Since we were here closer to New Year's, people came here for the special event, and so were we.
I think you got a worksheet, so you can write down a wish. I don't know, and you tie it on that thing.
Unfortunately, we didn't get our fortune this time around, but hopefully, we can get it somewhere else. And of course, right outside the temple were food stalls. We got a churro. And after a long day of walking and traveling, it was time to head back. So far, Japan, it's been great. But we need to talk about the bidets. I don't know how I exactly feel about them. The spray is a bit oscillating. I'm not sure if I'm going to get used to this. Okay. I will admit, I was feeling a bit down this day. It's been like 3 days, and I still feel like a total stranger here. I mean, I'm starting to understand how the trains work on the east side, but you know what? It's okay. They say the cure is to go to your happy place. Luckily, today, we're going to the happiest place on earth. Disney. We went to Disney. But not your typical Disneyland, but something totally different. DisneySea. An exclusive park only found in, you guessed it, Japan. I should have expected the crowds, even though we went on a weekday. But when we had some space and some time to look around, oh man, was it spectacular. Given the name of the place, everything was sea or water themed. Honestly, a fisherman's dream. We eventually had enough sightseeing and walking around, so it was time to go on a ride. They called this one Aquatopia, where we boarded a watercraft that spun us around and around and around. Safe to say, I got very dizzy. But it was time for the main event. There's this exclusive area called Fantasy Springs, and you need to fight for a ticket to get in there. We got in, of course. And I'd say it was worth it. The rest of the day was wandering around the park, looking at all the castles, and waiting for nighttime. You see, the park changes at night. Things that we saw before are now glowing and are reimagined. But it was time to make our way back to the center of DisneySea. Because it wouldn't be Disney if there wasn't fireworks. As each day passed, I started feeling like I was getting into the groove of things. I mean, I could take trains to places, I knew when cafes were open, and I felt a sense of direction. Being only a short walk away, my internal compass led us to one of the most iconic places in Tokyo, Shibuya. A place of tourism, street carting, and lots of shopping. And of course, we had to check out the views. Man, there's a lot of people here. One of the things I really wanted to do while I was here was drive. Because I know that there's so much more to see if you can drive there. All along our road trip, there were these rest stops, each of them unique in their own way, filled with Japanese snacks, beverages, and hot food. The services here are truly surreal. We, of course, got some snacks for the road, and they were delightful. With 2.5 hours to our destination, the countryside, the hills, and the roads were something else. Luckily, the signage along the way had English on them with visuals. So navigation wasn't too hard, as long as I went straight. The farther and farther we drove away from Tokyo, the environment just started changing. Clouds appearing from the sky, frost on the windshield, and trees blanketed with snow. This was the first time in ages that I've seen real snow coming from the sky. The feeling was nostalgic, like I was a kid again. And after 5 long hours, we finally made it to the ski resort. Because of all the stops, we came a little late, but we checked out the resort before heading to our stay for the night. Okay. We thought about driving to the ski resort again, but after yesterday, we thought it would be safer to just take the bus. And we weren't the only one. But soon enough, we arrived. Japan's ski resorts are efficient. We got our snow gear, zipped up, and before you know it, we're hitting the slopes. This isn't our first time skiing, but it has been a while since the last time. We started on the bunny hills, and the muscle memory started kicking in. Well, for one of us. But something else also began kicking. Our stomachs. I felt that we were ready to take on the next level. But to get there, we needed to take a different ski lift. I think I've been skiing in artificial snow for so long now that I had forgotten the feeling of soft, powdery snow. So right now, this is a dream. Brenda and I go at different skiing speeds, so I waited at the top for a little while. We also tried doing some jumps and some speed sessions, but my favorite is the snowball fights. Eventually, it was nearing closing time, so we got a cone and headed back for the day. Skiing was great, but there's so much more of Japan in store for us. For now, I'm saying goodbye, though this won't be goodbye forever. I've come to realize that some of the coolest places in Japan are the places in between. The places you stop at to take a moment and breathe. On our way to our next destination, we stopped for some breakfast and a snack. I mean, can't go wrong with the taiyaki. There were also some of these mini shops and some frogs. But we couldn't stay for too long because we had to get back on the road so that we could check in at our next place on time. I've never stayed at a resort before, let alone a Japanese one. I felt incredibly awkward at the hospitality, but I'll adjust. We got a private room, of course, with tons of space, which was actually quite refreshing. As part of our stay, we were given a tea voucher where they gave us some matcha tea and a sweet treat. But of course, there was a small shop out front for us to also browse. The outside was what made this place feel enormous. As day turned to dusk, the lanterns were beginning to flicker on, and made for quite a magical experience. We even got access to the wine lounge. I mostly came for the snacks. All right, look. If I'm gonna stay here, given the exorbitant price, I'm going to use everything because this is the time to relax, refresh yourself, and get ready for what we have in store for tomorrow.
I got no money, like it or not, I'm funny. Still in searching of my destination.
It's finally part of the trip where we get to see Japan's most famous mountain, Mount Fuji.
Is my reputation. Hey, let's walk.
They called this place the 8 Seas of Oshino, and everyone was looking for a photo here. And so were we. But just a short walk away, it was teeming with food. This is called dango, and it's Brenda approved. We spent the rest of the time looking around the ponds, the gear shifting, and the local ducks and fish. But we knew that if we wanted to experience Mount Fuji, we had to get a little closer. There's this huge lake that everyone goes to, and it's set up so you get the best view possible. A colleague of mine recommended me to try this ice cream cone. It was delicious.
Crush all your secret delusions. Hey, let's walk this way.
But there was still so much more of this mountain for us to see. We took plenty of shots, of course, before walking along a pathway until we found a playground. Just across the lake were these Swan boats. We didn't know if they were open or not, so we had to take a pass on them for now. But nonetheless, we still had one more spot to check out. So we've been afar, we've been closer, but now we need to go higher. And I mean higher. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't afraid of standing in a box pulling me to the top of a hill, but once you get there, it's not so bad.
Hey, let's walk this way.
There's all these pathways that lead up to the main area, And from there, you're seeing eye to eye with Mount Fuji.
And it would be kind of a groovy story if you wanna be my midnight mover.
But that's not even the end of it. You can hike up to find yourself swinging or just enjoy the trails. We chose to hike. Eventually, we reached the peak, but decided it was starting to get late, so we headed back down. Of course, you can only go back the same way you came.
Party, living my way is arty. All I offer if you wanna be my midnight mover.
The one thing I was told you either have to try or have to avoid is an onsen. Obviously, I couldn't film myself in the public ones, but luckily we had this private one. Funny enough, I had no clue what to do when I went into the public ones, and someone told me just to follow the person in front of me. Guess what? There was no one in front of me. All I'll say is, the water was hotter than I expected. More than a week in, and it feels like we've done so much so far. But this journey is not even close to being over yet. Of course, we have to say goodbye to Mount Fuji, probably one of my favorite experiences thus far. It's time to ditch the car because the places we're going, we need to take the Shinkansen. Every time I scroll through Instagram and I see someone post about their trip to Japan, I see that they get these photos in front of these vibrant red arches. Apparently in Kyoto, this location is a popular spot for seeing the gates, but I didn't expect it to have so much more. It was unfortunately quite a cloudy day, so I would have actually loved to see this place with a radiant sun just popping down. But regardless, everything was just so beautiful. Remember that New Year's fortune we didn't get to do back in Tokyo? Well, now's our time to shine. We saw this table with all these cylinders on them. We didn't know what we were doing since this was our first time, but apparently you can shake the box as much as you desire and pull out a number. That number is your fortune. The fortune is only in Japanese, but we tried Google translating it. Apparently mine was good, so we'll hope for the best. However, it was time to make our way up the beaten path. Not to mention all the stairs. This place was an entire park, and it took us some time to figure out where we wanted to go. With different trails for you to choose your own adventure, we easily could have been lost in this place for hours. But as we said before, we're here for a particular reason. The higher and higher you go up, the more these gates start showing up. I can see why everyone takes photos here now, because this is something that is uniquely Japan. The way that the light slips through the cracks, the different sizes of the pillars, and the path through the forest guiding you to your destination. It's magical. However, we couldn't stay for too long. We had to head north because there was a place where we wanted to make rings. And when we found the place, there were a lot of selections, and it's definitely a touristy experience. But hey, It was pretty interesting seeing them make the custom rings right in front of you. You can choose different textures, get your ring sized, and at the end of the day, you have a souvenir for your travels. Actually kind of crazy, when we walked outside, it just started snowing. But you know how it goes. We've been walking for so long now that we needed a snack break. Luckily, there was something to eat right next to us. I also heard about this iconic Starbucks. I know, how American is that? But apparently it's unlike anything I've seen before. And to that statement, I agree. We also tried something called duck rice for the first time. It felt like doing a science experiment. Kyoto has been incredible so far. We took a train to hopefully take another train on a sightseeing expedition, but I didn't expect yesterday's snowfall to turn into today's snow downpour. And apparently, this was uncommon. We honestly had to take a moment to just absorb what was happening. This was one of those cases where I had a plan, thought we'd take a nice scenic mode of transport, but the weather said, nope, not today. So, increasing our skill of adaptability, we had to improvise what to do today. We thought it would be nice to counter the freezing snow with something warm. So we made a new plan to make our way over to a coffee shop near a lake. The lake was more or less being bombarded by the snow. Look at him go! However, some didn't seem to mind. Walking in a snowstorm also brought back fond memories as a kid. But we had to make sure we didn't slip on the ice. Eventually, we finally made it to the coffee shop. Now we could recuperate some of our energy and just enjoy the view. Some people might think that the weather ruined the day and our plans, but it's the unexpected that makes for a fond, memorable moment. And I wouldn't have changed today for anything else. Of course, we couldn't stay here forever, so we took a train back on to our next adventure. So, no one told me that Japanese cats are huge. Like, they make my cat, Sprout, look like a baby. Regardless of their size, they are still very cute. I mean, look at them, just sleeping everywhere, accepting pats from anyone and everyone, playing when they want to, and eating until their heart's content. There was this munchkin who was super popular, but all of this made me realize that even across borders, cats are the same inside. Today is a special day, so we had to get up bright and early because we're going to the land of matcha. We had an appointment to learn about the origins of matcha, so we couldn't be late. But that doesn't mean we couldn't do some sightseeing along the way. And when we finally got there and grinded some tea, we made our way to Matcha Land. That's an unofficial title that we totally made up, but everywhere you looked, there was some sort of tea in sight. However, there was also another shrine that we had to see. Apparently, this place is popular because the temple is actually on the 10 yen coin. So everyone here was trying to take that iconic photo of the coin with the temple in the background. And of course, so were we. Yeah, tourism definitely can be scary. But this place luckily had loads of places to just relax. If Japan had one thing that it was known for, it would be sushi. Surprisingly, we didn't get to try that much sushi until now. And man, was that a mistake. We went to a notable sushi chain called Kura, and hands down, this place beat anything we had at home. The fish felt fresher, the prices were more affordable, and the bluefin tuna just melted in your mouth. After our meal, we even got to play a pachinko-like game, and we even won a prize.
Oh, we won! We won one!
What she take? That's cool.
What do you look at?
Of course, we had to try again, but better luck next time. Kyoto treated us well, but soon enough we had to explore Osaka. Osaka's main city area definitely feels like a place that needs to be seen at night.
Good luck out there. It's a jungle in the neighborhood. You get buried alive by the millions of people underneath the skyline.
We gradually made our way through the streets, checking out the famous crab sign, and just aimlessly roamed around. Eventually, we found the famous Running Man sign,
Imagine how much these ads cost.
and we even saw someone holding a sign.
Get your paycheck. Get it.
I could already tell that today was going to be a day unlike anything I've experienced before. Because I've seen the major cities, I've seen the shining lights, but every time so far we've gone to these cities that are just a little farther away, something just catches me by surprise. And that feeling of not knowing what to expect, even though you completely planned for it, but it still catches you by surprise. And my oh my, were they surprises. 1 second you are walking, and the next, there are these majestic creatures pacing right in front of you. And there's not just a few. They are all over this park. And every one of them are begging for cookies. What I found fascinating was that each deer had different qualities to them. Some were scruffy, some were young, and others were just lounging about. But I couldn't be the only one having fun. It was Brenda's turn to hand out some cookies too. We eventually walked across the park, got some close-ups, and met some of the most friendliest deer I've ever seen. But Nara isn't just a place of deer. It's also the place of mochi. So of course, we tried some. I don't know how to describe it, but these were the sweetest strawberries I've ever tasted. And funny enough, we had large crackers as a snack. Call me crazy, but I truly believe that Kobe is an underrated destination in Japan. I mean, if you're a foodie type of person, this place is for you. We had a sando here, best one I've ever had, and we also checked out their version of Chinatown. There was a film production going on, but we had more food adventures to go on, like croquettes, dumplings of course, and for the main event, a family-owned Kobe steak teppanyaki restaurant. So we had a day of eating, but today is all about creatures. Because we're going to an owl cafe. You know Hedwig from Harry Potter? I didn't realize how big owls actually are. I mean, we saw some small ones too. They were adorable and very curious. But it was cool that we got to feed one of them actually. This one was especially a little feisty. We were told that we were allowed to pick one to hang out with later, and originally I was gonna go with this little guy, but I saw that he just pooped, so his friend Chico will have to do. I could have had Chico on my head, but seeing his friend over there made me just consider my shoulder. And after telling Brenda that too, she chose her shoulder as well. We've seen creatures that can fly, but it's time to see ones that can swim. And yes, we're going to the aquarium. Now, don't get me wrong, I've been to aquariums before, but let me tell you, this one had us walking deeper and deeper into the ocean. But before that, we had to start at the very top. Land. We had to start from the land. We're talking about waterfalls, duckies, otters, and even puffins. But it's the fish that I'm here for. So many different kinds of fish, each getting larger and larger and larger. But we eventually hit the land of happy feet. Some were showering, and others were swimming. But it was the dolphins that were truly putting on a show for us. It looked like they were having fun in the water, and we were having fun watching them. Something about being able to see snippets of what it would be like underwater is like entering another world. I can't really swim, so this is as close as I'll ever get to being in the ocean. And all I have to say is, it's beautiful. As we went deeper and deeper into the abyss, we started seeing creatures of the bottom floor. But the main attraction of this place is actually the one and only whale shark. No, it's this guy over here. Universal Studios. I didn't expect it to be like this.
The Universal Marathon.
You see, people were rushing because Japan's Universal Studios allows free entry into this place called Nintendo World. We didn't know it at the time, but we entered anyways. And we even got onto our first ride. We essentially were riding on a pink Yoshi, and it gave us a view of the entire area. But there was a ride we really needed to find. If you played Mario Kart before, this was a super intense Mario Kart. But what people really wanted to see was the newly opened Donkey Kong Country. Our stomachs were calling, so we got a quick snack, plus we figured less people will be eating at this time. This place felt just like the game, and the carts just as fast. To be honest, we kind of just spent the rest of the time checking out the other areas, going on the rides we had in mind, and watching those brave enough on the scary ones. We found it sort of funny that everyone was in Nintendo World, so the rest of the park was mostly just us being silly and seeing the sights. Eventually it began to get darker, but the shows went on, as did the lights and the shopping. No. I know what you're thinking. We are not back at another cat cafe. Come on, we wouldn't do that twice, because that is not a cat. That, my friends, is a capybara, and he seemed to really like these leaves. We were also given these pellets to feed him, but he seemed to like the spot where he was resting. However, the day was just getting started. We went with one of Brenda's friends to visit a pond nearby that had this vibrant red temple. It's amazing how different ponds and parks are in Japan compared to back home. Everything here feels so peaceful. But there was this one thing that we had to do while we were here. Remember when we couldn't do swan boating at Mount Fuji? Well, now's the time. There weren't any 3-person boats, so I got to ride on one on my own. And it turns out, the boats are a lot easier to steer if only one person is pedaling. So I pedaled my heart out. A big portion of our days left in Japan, specifically Tokyo, was exploring the areas that we didn't get to see when we first arrived. So to kick off our day, we tried to find a quick cafe to get some energy. Because we had a booking to find Sonic the Hedgehog. Surprisingly, holding one wasn't as prickly as I thought. We got to feed them. Unfortunately, there weren't any chili dogs, but this will have to do. And we met some other friends. This one had a strong grip. But people mainly come here to see the otters. I know that we saw some at the Aquarium in Osaka, but seeing them up close is fascinating. We spent more time roaming around, getting lost, but eventually we found our way.
Here we are.
Nowadays, it felt like we were tourist pros. I mean, we could generally get to places and took our time exploring all the nooks and crannies, but as you can expect, Japan is huge, and it keeps leaving you wanting more. And there was so much more left to see. I'm personally a big bread person, so we had to try a bakery while we were here. I approved. Sifting through the streets, Brenda was able to do some window shopping. And eventually we landed at a cafe for a matcha break. But what we really wanted to try was thrifting. However, I ended up getting distracted by the retro TVs. Sad to say, I didn't end up finding anything that fit. We closed out our days in the areas that were a little closer to our hotel. And we even tried our luck at some of the claw machines.
Grab it, grab it. No, no more.
Woke up in my hotel, was shaking. I was laying in bed somewhere in Japan.
Remember at the beginning of the trip where I said I didn't know how I felt about bidets? Well, they've grown on me. I still don't use the spray function, but this auto lid opener is game-changing. Like, why don't all bathrooms have this? And the flush button, I don't know how I'm gonna live without it. So this trip is starting to come to an end, and I gotta say, I miss my cat. Here we are, the last day of our trip. Brenda wanted to check out some super cool glasses, and I wanted to see the mechanical heads. The glasses looked straight out of a Super Sentai show, but we opted to see the normal ones. At this point, we're 25 days in, and we're roaming the streets, browsing like we're locals, and trying to make the most of our time left here. Navigating got pretty easy, well, sometimes. But we consistently managed to beat the rush for lunch and dinners. You just have to go 30 minutes ahead of time. And the quality of food was just incredible. What I've learned is that if you spend enough time in a place, you'll figure out how to survive eventually. Traveling is scary, but that's also what makes it the most exciting. The unknown, the unexpected, the adventure. As this trip comes to an end, I can't help but think about how surreal it feels to be in this country, and how different it is to places that I've been and lived before. The culture, the norms, the people. I wouldn't say that my Japanese is any better than it was when I first arrived, but I did learn a few words. You know, enough to survive. Well, it's almost time to go home. And I will say here, I love Japan, but I miss my cat.